What's Your Ethics IQ? By Dr. Bruce Weinstein, the Ethics Guy. How would you react in the following situations? Number 1. You wake up one morning with the flu. What would you do? A. Stay home and rest. B. Stay home and work. C. Go to work but avoid socializing with people. Or D. Go to work but socialize only with the people you do not like. Number 2. You're crossing a busy intersection. Next to you is a woman who is looking intensely at her cell phone. She is also pushing a stroller and seems oblivious to the traffic around her. What would you do? A. Say nothing. B. Tell her she should be ashamed of herself for putting a child at risk. C. Wait until you both get to the sidewalk, ask her if you could talk with her for a moment, and then explain your concerns. Or D. Secretly record her with your smartphone video camera and post the clip on YouTube. Number 3. You're on a plane one afternoon, and a child directly behind you starts kicking your seat. How would you respond? A. Quietly seethe. B. Call the flight attendant. C. Angrily tell the child to stop it. Or D. Let the parents know you sympathize with their situation and that you would be grateful if their child would stop kicking the seat. If you ask your friends to take this quiz and then ask them how they responded, you would probably discover that not all of them answered the questions exactly as you did. But clearly, not all of the answers to each question are equally right or good. How can we discover the right way to respond to these and other sticky situations? When we ask, what's the right thing to do, we're asking an ethical question, so we need to turn to the field of ethics to find the answers. Let's take a look at the basic principles of ethics. I call these the principles of ethical intelligence because they help us make the right decisions, and the right thing to do is also the smart thing to do. The good news is that you know these principles already. After we review them, we'll take another look at the quiz and we'll see how the principles of ethical intelligence point us in the right direction. The 5 principles of ethical intelligence. Number 1. Do no harm. This is the most fundamental ethical principle of all. It's often associated with the healthcare profession, but it applies not just to your physician, your nurse, your pharmacist, or your dentist. It also applies to you, me, and everyone in our communities too. What's great about this principle is that all it takes to apply it is nothing. Do no harm is a principle of restraint. For example, we do no harm when we resist the impulse to be nasty to someone who has been nasty to us. You may be familiar with Google's corporate motto, "Don't be evil." That's just another way of saying do no harm. Sometimes, though, we're called upon to take action so that harm does not befall others. So an important corollary to this principle is prevent harm. We'll see in a moment how this applies to some of the quiz questions. Principle number 2, make things better. It's important to avoid harming people, but is that enough? Can't we rightly be expected to do more in life than simply not hurt one another? Yes, and principle number 2 exhorts us to use our knowledge and skills to help colleagues, clients, families, friends, and neighbors. You've probably heard the flight attendant say that if there is a loss in cabin pressure, oxygen masks will drop down, and if you're with a child, you should help yourself first. Why? Because the only way you can benefit others is if you're in good condition yourself. There's a powerful lesson in the flight attendant's speech. Living an ethically intelligent life means taking care of others and yourself. We often think of ethics as having to do with our responsibilities to other people. That's true, but it's only part of the story. To be fully human, we need to take care of ourselves too. Principle number 3, respect others. Respecting people means treating them the way they'd like to be treated. There are 3 critical ways to do this. A. Keeping confidences. I was once in a hospital elevator, and I overheard 2 physicians talking about a patient who had just had heart surgery. It happened that I knew the man they were talking about, but I did not know that he had been admitted to the hospital. I wondered whether I should visit him or send a get-well card, but if I did that, wouldn't he want to know how I knew about his situation? I couldn't very well tell him, "Oh, I heard your doctors talking about you in an elevator." I'm not saying that the physicians were bad people, but at that moment they were not acting with great ethical intelligence. Ethical intelligence calls upon us to respect others' right to privacy, as hard as that can be sometimes. B. Telling the truth. If someone you know has lied to you repeatedly, you probably felt as though that person did not respect you very much. That's because a person who lies to you repeatedly does not respect you very much. That person probably doesn't respect him or herself very much either, but that's another issue. Telling the truth is one of the simplest but most powerful ways we evince respect for people. But does this mean that we're ethically obligated to be completely truthful in every situation? No. After taking a sip from the bottle of wine that a friend brought to one of my dinner parties, I spat it out and said, "Yuck, this tastes like battery acid." It was the truth, and I thought it was funny, but my friend didn't see it that way. I was reminded how being honest can have its drawbacks. Yes, it's important to tell the truth. It's also important to take other people's feelings into account. Even if my friend had wanted to know what I thought about the wine, I could have said something truthful that was not hurtful, such as, "It was really nice of you to bring a gift," which you did not have to do. The bottom line is that it's important to tell the truth, but it's also important to avoid damaging our relationships. C. Keeping promises. In 2008, the Dr. Pepper Company promised a free can of soda to everyone in America if the rock band Guns N' Roses released their album Chinese Democracy that year. The company probably figured that it was highly unlikely that they would have to make good on their offer, since the band had delayed the album's release for almost 15 years. But guess what happened? In October of that year, the album finally made its way to the marketplace. The company's website crashed under the weight of too many orders that the organization was not prepared for. Eventually, things worked out, but not before Dr. Pepper got some really bad PR. The moral of the story? Keep the promises you make, and don't make promises you're not prepared to keep. Principle number 4, be fair. Fairness means giving to others their due. For example, if you spend so much time at work that you're not able to meet your responsibilities to your family, that's not unfortunate, it's unfair and therefore ethically unintelligent. If you're called upon to discipline an employee or one of your children, and you let your anger get the better of you, your response to the infraction may be too harsh. Ethically intelligent discipline or punishment means modulating your disappointment so that you can help bring out the best in others. As Elizabeth Kennedy once said, "He who angers you, conquers you." Principle number 5, care. The principle of ethical intelligence that's in the shortest supply in the world, but the one that's the most appreciated when you're on the receiving end of it, is this one. To be caring, kind, compassionate, or loving is to appeal to what Abraham Lincoln called the better angels of our nature. It's easy to apply this principle to the people you like and who treat you well. The challenge is to apply it to those who irritate you, or worse. Yet the riches that lie in store for us when we find the courage to do this are immeasurable. To review the 5 principles of ethical intelligence: Number 1, do no harm. Number 2, make things better. Number 3, respect others. Number 4, be fair. And number 5, care. Now let's consider how the 5 principles of ethical intelligence can help us make the best possible decisions in the 3 quiz scenarios. Number 1, waking up with the flu. The most obvious reason for staying home is so that you can avoid giving your illness to other people. After all, you probably got it from someone who did not take the do no harm principle seriously, so it's time to break the cycle. But there's a less obvious reason why the ethically intelligent thing to do is to stay home and rest, not work. This is the caring and compassionate thing to do. Recall that ethics concerns how you treat yourself as well as others. Number 2, multitasking in the street. Do we control technology, or is it controlling us? Smartphones and other electronic gadgets can make our lives easier, but they can also create problems, as this scenario illustrates. The woman whose attention is not where it should be is unwittingly placing a child, herself, and those around her at risk of injury, perhaps even death, should she fail to see an approaching car. No one likes confrontations, but the prevent harm rule calls upon you to do something rather than nothing. This might be something as simple as waiting until you're all out of harm's way, asking the woman if she has a second, and then kindly bringing up your concerns. Handled the right way, you'll be doing both her and the child a great service, and in so doing, bringing out the best in yourself too. Number 3, kicked on the plane. I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I was once the sort of unruly child described in this scenario. My parents weren't irresponsible, I just had a lot of energy and didn't like being cooped up on a plane for hours. Perhaps you were like this too. This is one of those highly annoying situations that presents the greatest challenge to the 5th principle of ethical intelligence. But the ethically intelligent response is to take a deep breath, realize that the child is not intentionally getting on your nerves, and then say something to the child's guardian like, I know exactly how he or she feels. I don't like these long flights either. But I sure would appreciate it if your child wouldn't kick my seat. A gentle word and a smile will go a long way toward getting what you want and treating people the way they'd like to be treated. The 5 principles of ethical intelligence are easy to say and very difficult to live by. But wouldn't you agree that these principles are also the best way to live? What would the world look like if all of us made these principles the basis of all that we did? I'd like to live in such a world, and I'll bet you would too. This article was originally published in Spanish in Nexus, the in-flight magazine of American Airlines serving Spain, Portugal, and Latin America. If you'd like to sign up for my free ethics newsletter, purchase my new DVD, or book me to speak at your next meeting, please visit my website, theethicsguy.com. I'm Dr. Bruce Weinstein. I write an ethics blog for the Huffington Post, and my latest books are Ethical Intelligence and Is It Still Cheating If I Don't Get Caught? You may have seen me on The Today Show, Good Morning America, CNBC, MSNBC, CNN, Fox Business, or the Fox News Channel, where I discuss ethical issues in the news. Thanks for listening.